I do yoga and physiotherapy and things like that.
Okay, but no one, has anyone actually assessed your gait and said to you, yeah, this is how you walk, this is kind of what's going on with your center of mass? Nothing like
No,
that.
no,
No,
I haven't had that.
okay,
No.
nothing like that. Okay, okay. One of the things we'll offer at the end of this session is that you're welcome to send in a little video. We'll give you instructions of how to do that, of yourself walking, and you'll get feedback. We'll give you feedback on what you're doing. Sometimes there are some pretty simple adjustments you can make. Sorry, some people seem to be struggling to get in. Let me just could someone go just into the practitioner group and give Wendy, could you, and just put the link for this meeting in there for anyone? Charlotte, hello. Would you like to share your interest in what we're doing here?
Hi, sorry, it's a bit noisy where I am.
No problem.
Just personal interest. I've got an SI joint issue which I'm looking into.
Okay.
So just to understand a bit more.
How long have you had that going on, Charlotte?
Since childbirth, about 12 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we're big up on SI joint issues. It's fine.
Good.
Look, I'll show you just so you know. There you go. We're wearing them. Can you see that?
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, we actually teach, if we can, with this on. So we really like you to understand and see what's going on inside your body while we're teaching you. Okay, we're just waiting to see if anyone else turns up. There should be a few more people turning up, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. We'll see. Anyway, thank you so much for your interest and for taking time out of your day to drop in. Just to say, some of the other people here have been using the system that we're teaching for a while now, and I think everyone gets extraordinary results just in learning about the body that we're living in. This is a very different process to yoga or Pilates or working in the gym. We really are teaching you about the bones of who you are and how they're your internal structure, and how when you actually understand just some very, very small things sometimes, but specific things about how your bones and joints move, it completely transforms your experience of living in your body in a way that, you know, we know just can transform not just weeks or months, but sometimes decades of chronic discomfort. And that be that physical or emotional, because we see no separation between the two. Emotion is like energy in motion. If your body cannot maneuver correctly, if the joints cannot maneuver correctly, you very often become stuck, and this impacts the nervous system. Or it could be that it's catch-22. Is it the bones locking down the nervous system, or the nervous system that locks up the bones? Sorry, Wendy, Manuela's saying she can't get in. I'm just wondering if that's the same for other people. Sorry, tech is just such a thing, isn't it?
They might be assuming that you can get straight in, but actually it takes you to the registration form. So you have to fill out the registration form anyway, even with that link that you sent us in the practitioner.
Yeah, possibly. Okay, Wendy, will you feed that? Thanks. So what we've been doing is we've been teaching people to realign their own bodies for themselves. My own history is that I worked with chronic pain in my clinic for many years, and I was an expert, I still probably am, at helping people release chronic pain. But what I was more fascinated by was the fact that people are actually experts at recreating chronic pain in their body. And this is because of unconscious patterns, whether it's in the way we sit or the way we do a particular job. But more interestingly enough, generally, it's created very much by the way we put one foot in front of the other when we walk. And what we have established is that when we teach people to walk differently in alignment, and to put one foot in front of the other in correct alignment, that very often not just chronic pain conditions but also health challenges can completely transform. And the way my history is, I have a degree in clinical massage. I'm a systematic kinesiologist, but I'm also trained as a gait analyst. And over the years, I started working out some really, really interesting things. And one of the things is our body needs to be able to access 6 different postures every step we take. Those are different alignments. So when you go to an osteopath or a chiro, they are only assessing you standing still. They are not assessing the way that you're walking around. And what we do is we look at you as you're walking. So we get a slow-mo video. With that, we can read your body, and we can then help you to readjust and to create, usually if we get 1 or 2 of those postures into your body, phases of gait, which one is suspension, another is propulsion, which we'll talk a little bit more about. The other postures just completely kind of sort themselves out as well. And what happens is when we get the correct, not just the timing of the way you walk, but we teach you how to realign every joint in your body in 3 planes of movement. So pretty much every joint in your body should be able to move backwards and forwards, side to side, and rotate. Most people who have a chronic pain condition have a joint in their body that's forgotten how to move. And with that, all the other joints have to come in and compensate. And with that, we get a collapse, we get an imbalance, we get a collapse. Part of the body is overcompensating, another part of the body isn't working correctly. And all of this is going on completely unconsciously, okay? So what we do is we bring in these very, very simple practices, starting from the feet up. And as we bring in those practices, you are the one who is assessing what your body can and can't do. And as you do that, and the beautiful process, as many people here will share, is that you start to get an ownership back over your body. So as far as I'm concerned, every human should be taught what we're teaching here in schools, and that is part of my vision, that this will be taught mainstream. It will go into the education system. But for now, it's one body at a time, literally. And it is an educational process. It is not something where a practitioner is coming in and fixing you. It is something where you are learning enough about your own body that you can then come back to us, tell us what you've been learning, show us what you've been doing, and we just assess you and fine-tune what it is that you've been implementing. So generally it's a 7-week process that we take people through. Week 1, we teach you to realign what we call your foot tripod and the mechanics of your feet and the way your center of mass sinks down. And we're going to give you an experience of that this evening. Or it may not be evening for all of you, I'm not sure. Week 2, we take you through your pelvis. We teach you how to mobilize and realign your pelvis, moving backwards and forwards, side to side, and rotate. Okay, we get you to learn all of this for yourself. The following week, we teach you about your spine. We teach you about how your spine is actually designed to mobilize in relationship to your pelvis. But also, all of this is completely dependent on you putting in and keeping what you've already learned about your feet and your pelvis to allow your spine to align correctly. The fourth week, we take you through a process for your rib cage, and we teach you how to assess whether your rib cage is moving in 3D, 3 planes of movement. Most people's rib cages are stuck. Okay, they are stuck in 1 or 2 planes of movement, and you've got all your organs in there. Okay, your lungs, your heart, your digestive system, your liver. So if you've got a systematic health condition, no matter what it is, and these structures cannot actually move correctly, then your circulation and your nervous system is not working correctly. It can't. Okay. And then the 5th week, we come into your scapulars, your shoulder joints, and your shoulder blades. We get those moving for you. Week 6, we're looking at your neck, which is more about the relationship between your skull and your rib cage. And week 7, we come into your skull and your jaw. And by the time we finish with you in week 7, you understand how the movement of your jaw can impact your toes. Okay, you are absolutely starting to learn about how your whole body is working as one unit and one mechanism. All right, rather than this kind of more medical version of we've got this system in the body, we have that system in the body. Or even in some ways with holistic therapies, where you're either going for body work, or you might go for nutrition, or you might go for your nervous system. We are bringing it together, and we are looking at the container of all these systems, and how when the container moves correctly with the correct foundation, then everything starts to work better. So we start with the what we call the foot tripod. Okay, and I'm going to get Manuela to show that to you in a moment, because my foot isn't here. But before I do that, I'm going to try and share a testimonial with you, because I always think that me talking, it can get very boring. So I'm just going to see if I can find this testimonial, just so you can hear. Can you, Wendy, I can't share because you're on host. Could you just allow multiple sharing for me? And also, please, if anyone has any questions, could you pop them in the chat? And if you any question that you're not sure about, pop it in the chat, and Karen will also feed back to me if there's something important. Is that okay? Can I share now? Or just make me host again, Wendy. That's fine as well. Yeah, I can share now. Okay, let's go and see. Okay, so this is someone quite recently who is just sharing. Can you see that? Let me see. Yeah, can you see this? Right. Can you hear that? Or is that impossible to hear? You can't hear it.
Don't hear.
Can't hear. Okay, bear with me. All right.
It's very low. It's sort of there, but very low.
Okay, don't worry. I will keep on. I'm going to just keep sharing for a minute. In which case, Manuela, could you just share about the foot tripod, which is where we start with everything we do? I'm just going to stop this share for a minute. Sorry. Manuela, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to get my screen to work correctly.
Do you want me to explain the
Yeah, can you just
watch as
explain?
well?
Yeah, can I just ask, am I off share now, or is it still sharing?
No, still, you're still sharing your screen.
I'm trying to stop the share. Why does it have to go
It's
wrong?
a green band in the
There
top.
we go. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so Manuela's going to share about the foot tripod, which is the foundation to all balance and stability in your body, whether it be physical or emotional.
Great. This is a model of the skeleton of our foot. And you can see it has many bones, 26 bones.
Yeah, no, we have to go to, you put
Just-
Mark's vacation in? Did it
Is
take it?
everyone on
Yeah, okay.
mute?
Can you turn it, Margaret? Thank you.
Yeah, let's go forward. We go to payroll processing now.
You can do it, Wendy. Yeah, thank you. So I was saying this is the foot, and it's the foot skeleton, and we have 26 bones in it. And you can see that, you know, it has these longer bones that are the anterior part, and they are called metatarsal bones. And this big bone is the heel. Okay, you can notice also that we have arches. Is an internal arch, which is the highest. We have an external arch, which is a little lower. And then there is a small arch across the fingers, the base of the fingers, across the metatarsal bones. Okay, so this is designed perfectly to be flexible and elastic to allow sustaining the great weight that we have compared to how small the surface of the foot is, and also to allow propulsion when we walk or run. So it is very important to, in order for this,
Sorry.
Okay, no worry. In order for these arches to work properly, and so to allow us to stand and propel and walk and run, it is very important to fix our attention on these 3 points that I have marked red, which is exactly the 3 points in which our foot should nicely, lay and stand on the floor. And these are where the tripod, tripod is 3, is the root 3, means 3 points, and 3 points in which we basically stand on our feet, literally. Okay, so one is the heel, one is below the root of our big toe, and is at the root of our first metatarsal bone. And the third one is at the bottom of, the root of our little toe, at the 5th metatarsal bone. So these are the 3 points in which we basically stand and lay our weight on.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Manuela, for sharing about. So,
if there are any questions, of course, Victoria will answer.
So basically, if your foot tripod doesn't work for you, the analogy that's in both feet, the analogy that we use is, if you imagine a table, when a table wobbles, you sit down to a table and it's wobbling, where do you go to sort that wobble? You don't just hold on to the table to try and keep it stable, or if you are holding on to the table to keep it stable, someone hopefully is going to the feet, of the legs, to wedge that table. And for the body, what we find again and again is that for most people, if their foot tripod for a start isn't working correctly for them, then further up the body is having to kind of clench and hold on completely unconsciously to deal with the instability. And it really is interesting as people go through this 7-week process as to where their kind of, what I call their Achilles heel is. We're always working with different people and everyone is different. If you've had an injury at any point in your life, your body will have created a compensation to take the pressure off that injury. The injury then gets better, but there is no moment in time where the body then goes, oh, great, we can recalibrate everything now not to have that compensation. Likewise, if you are someone who experiences emotional trauma, it could be something that's very obvious that you remember. It could be pre-verbal, or fascinatingly, it could be quite epigenetic, where literally certain kinds of emotional holding are literally being inherited unconsciously, coming down through generations. Then there will be compensations and misalignments in the body. And from my perspective, an alignment and the way someone walks is a pretty predictable indication, not just of a pain condition they might have, but also literally just of their personality. You know, this is where it gets really fascinating with this work. You could almost tell from the way someone puts one foot in front of the other, how they live their life generally. Would it help with hypermobility? Absolutely. So one of the things with gait is that it's all about boundaries ultimately. Okay, so you may have really rigid boundaries and rock hard boundaries in your life, or you may have what you might feel are pretty rubbish boundaries. And in your joints, if you're hypermobile, you're emotionally generally going to be more all over the place. It can be much harder to say no. Okay, I'll get to fascial maneuvers in a minute. It can be harder to say no if you're someone who's quite that hasn't got boundaries, and you're hypermobile. You just don't have that correct range of movement, so you don't have a marking place as to where your boundary is before you overstretch, so you can find you're slightly all over the place. In terms of fascial maneuvers, so your joints are the fulcrums for your fascia, for your connective tissue. Yeah, all fascia is wrapped around muscles and joints and organs. So connective tissue is going to behave the way that it's directed to behave. And we come from a perspective of joints act, muscles react. So if I'm holding a towel, or let's say, and I'll just get my cardigan here. Yeah, so if my fists here are the joints, and this bit of material is like my muscle, yeah, my muscle is not going to move unless one of my joints moves it. Okay, and ideally 2 of my joints will move it, and then it will really engage really tightly, and then it will be able to release. But what's happening a lot of the time with a lot of movement practices, for example, is that the muscles are pulling the joints, yeah, and they're causing all kinds of strain and problem on these joints, instead of the joints leading the way. The way I like to describe that is if you think of a door. So if the muscle is the door, yeah, but it's the lock and the hinge that are in charge of moving that door. Otherwise, you're trying to pull that door, but if the joints aren't moving, and those are tiny things, but they actually have the power for movement. So in terms of the fascia, that's where we come from. I worked with fascia for many years, and yeah, this is what lies underneath. This is what's running the show, literally. So what we wanted to do was give you an opportunity to just check in some very, very basic alignment in your feet for yourself. So you were shown the foot tripod. Has anyone got any question about what the foot tripod is? Or did you understand that you've got just in front of your big toe, you've got your first metatarsal, just in front of your little toe, your 5th metatarsal, and your heel? Did that make sense to everyone? Yeah? Okay, so what I'm going to suggest you do is that you get up and stand on your feet, and we will have a look at how that shows up for you. So when we stand on our feet, we are designed to, let me just do this. So hopefully you can see my feet. Okay, so here are my feet. Now, I want you just to stand wherever you find yourself, and I want you to look down at where your feet land. Okay, so just standing on the ground, where do your feet land? And that includes the distance between your feet, okay? And it also includes the direction that your feet may be pointing in, okay? And your second toes in particular. We are very interested in your second toes, which are, in terms of biomechanics, the eyes of your feet. Now, we like to orientate you in a clock face. So if you were standing in a clock face right now with your feet hip width apart, so if they weren't hip width apart, I would like you to get them to be hip width apart. So I'll just show you what hip width apart means. So here is a pelvis. If you look, I've got a nice pelvis on my leggings, okay? Hip width apart is not the outside of my thighs, okay? Hip width apart is where the bone, the top of my thigh bone is coming in, and it's about middle of my groin, okay? So I would like you to touch the middle of your groins, which will be the top of the middle of your thigh. And then I would like you to, with straight knees, make sure that your knees are below your hips, where we've just placed them, and your heels are below your knees, okay? And we would like you to engage your knees. Now, if you are hypermobile, that does not mean sending your knees backwards. It means finding a very, very sensitive midpoint in your knees where they feel, okay, where they feel not bent. We don't want bent knees at all, but we don't want you sending your knees backwards either. So it will be a midpoint. And what we're looking for is that you feel that your weight is hopefully going down into your heels, straight from your hips down into your feet. And we want those second toes pointing to 12 o'clock on the clock face, okay? So we don't want feet turning out. We want the second toes pointing to 12 o'clock. Now, for some of you, that might feel really normal and comfortable. And for other people, that may feel very, very odd. Could you just raise your hand if having your second toes pointing to 12 o'clock feels odd? Jalita, yes. Kaz, yes. Melinda, yes. Charlotte, yes. Okay. Margaret, yes, hand up. Farah, I'm not sure about you. Okay, so already just assessing one thing in your body, which is your second toes, you are getting an experience, okay, that maybe something in your biomechanics, which is designed to move forward, might be pointing in the wrong direction. This immediately from your feet up is going to impact every other joint in your body, okay? And it's going to make specific phases of gait that we need to access when we move and that we need for supporting different structures. It's going to make it hard to happen in your body. But what we do with this process is we teach you how to rearrange all of this. Is it possible to go back to getting your second toes facing 12 o'clock? And I'm going to ask you to adjust your pelvis. And then we're going to just try and get you to do a movement, okay? We're going to get you to rotate around the clock face. But I need to know if this is uncomfortable for anyone, I don't want you to do it, okay? But if you can go, I've had on second toes, can't go straight without being knock-kneed. Okay, Kaz, so I've worked with people like yourself quite a few times, and very often that comes back to the alignment of your pelvis. Okay, generally when people have surgery like that, they tend to lock into an anterior tilt. So very often what we do is we start to work with the tilt of the pelvis and the alignment of the spine. But obviously that is the kind of thing we have to just assess more specifically one-to-one. And my guidance would be with that, as with everyone, don't do anything that feels uncomfortable. Okay, there's a difference between something feeling unusual and uncomfortable. All right, so if you can't get your second toes directly towards 12 o'clock, if you could just move them as closely to 12 o'clock as you can. And then I would just like to ask you to just tuck your tailbone if you can. So your tailbone is the base of your spine, to just tuck your tailbone under. And notice how if you tuck your tailbone under, does it make it slightly easier to have your second toes facing 12 o'clock? And it may or may not. We would always be assessing you doing this. Okay. I'm going to ask you not to look at your feet, to have your eyes on the horizon, all right? Because when we walk, we are always looking straight ahead. And if possible, just notice whether you're someone who likes to bring your arms in front of you or behind you, because all of this impacts what your center of mass, that's the weight sinking down your body, is actually doing, okay, as it sinks down through your body. So now with your toes hopefully pointing to 12 o'clock if they can, or as close to, and tucking your pelvis nicely underneath so that your tailbone, the base of your pelvis, hopefully points to the ground or just comes under and forward slightly. From that place, I would then like to invite you from the front of your foot, okay? So from here, I would like to invite you to just keeping your foot tripod where it is, just send your foot, the front of your ankle, round towards 3 o'clock. Now, this might seem quite confusing, but all we want you to do is keeping that foot tripod on the floor, just rotate towards 3 o'clock, and you may start to feel an arch pull up in your foot, okay? So with this is very interesting because a lot of people will say they have flat feet, and it's not that they have flat feet, it is simply that they have forgotten, and the body has forgotten the mechanics of creating an arch in the foot, all right, which also creates certain movements which are very good for the body. So all we're asking you to do here is feel into your right foot, keep that foot tripod, but send the front of your ankle. If you look at my leg, you'll see that my foot and the front of my ankle and my leg are just rotating slightly round the clock face. And you may or may not feel an arch rising in your foot. If you can, that's great. If you can't, it's great information, because if that's not happening, there's a lot of other things in your body not happening as well. And then let's try that towards 9 o'clock. So again, keeping your foot tripod with ideally your second toes facing 12 o'clock, hip width apart, just rotating round towards 9 o'clock. Not letting the first metatarsal, the head of that big bone just in front of your big toe, not letting it leave the ground. And again, just noticing as you rotate round, and your limit is when the first metatarsal wants to come off the ground, can you feel a little bit of an arch coming into your foot, or can't you? Healthy mechanics will automatically create a bit of an arch in the foot. If that's not going on, it's immediately giving us some information about your body. Okay. Another nice thing to do is just to, while we're standing here, I've given you something for the feet. I'm also going to give you something for your head. because mechanics of the body are so interesting, okay, in terms of where our intention is for movement. So we have all these different structures in our body. We just had a little look at the foot. Now we're just going to have a tiny little look at the skull, okay? All I want you to do, again, in the clock face, you've got this lovely orientation, is just look round towards 3 o'clock and just work out on the clock face, if 12 o'clock's in front of you, on that clock face, how far can you get when you look round to 3 o'clock, okay? What's that movement like for you? I want you to really feel the stop in that movement, what your range is, and what it just feels like in your head when you look towards 3 o'clock. Maybe you get to 2 o'clock, maybe you get to 3 o'clock, okay? Now what I would like you to do is we're going to do a similar movement towards 3 o'clock, but I want you to have the intention that you are sending your skull towards 3 o'clock, but from the back of your left ear. So the back of your left ear is the driver and is sending you round towards 3 o'clock. And I want you to notice whether when you change that intention of where you are sending that movement from, whether you can notice that you feel more of a kind of spiraling and more of a rotation, when actually you are doing the same movement, but your intention of where that movement is being driven from is completely different. Let's try that from 9 o'clock. So initially, I just want you to look towards 9 o'clock. So when we just look towards somewhere, it's generally our muscles that are driving that movement. We just look and the muscles kind of go and they lock at a particular point. Now, I'd like you this time to look towards 9 o'clock, but because you are directing and sending the movement from behind your right ear. Okay, so looking towards 9 o'clock, but going from behind your right ear. You may feel a sense of just being able to go slightly further and deeper into that move, and then just coming back. Okay. And we'll try one more thing, because the skull is very interesting because it's a very heavy object that our whole body is kind of carrying around all the time. So we've got the skull and we've got the feet. Just allow yourself just to let your head tip forward. Okay, most people, if they're bending their head forward, the chin just drops forward. Okay, and it's like, again, it's like this sudden stop. Or if you just send your head backwards, okay, and again, you probably feel a real compression in the back of your neck. So this time, what I want to encourage you to do is, rather than just sending your chin forwards, I would like you to send the base of your skull, okay, that's this base here, just send the base of your skull upwards. All right, send that base of the skull upwards. And what you should notice is that your chin drops forwards. This is your chin dropping forwards, okay? It's exactly the same movement, but hopefully you can feel a completely different integrity to that movement. And now if you were to send your chin upwards, okay, I just want you to send your chin upwards. You may notice as you send your chin upwards, it is again your head going backwards, but instead of squeezing all those muscles at the back of your neck, it's actually a really smooth feeling. Now, it may or may not be like that for you. We're going to hear more in a moment. But what we're doing here is we are starting to play with the intention of very small movements and mechanics in your body. Now, I'm going to try and share that testimonial again because it's such a lovely testimonial. Let me see if I can get it. Okie dokie. If you will want to take a seat and please just tell me, Wendy, will you just raise your hand if you can hear it okay? Can you hear it?
A little bit low.
So annoying, isn't it? Okay. All right. Well, in that case, we will get people in the room to share. What I will do is I will post this testimonial and some others so that if people are interested, they can hear this testimonial. Okay. But perhaps we could have a couple of people who are here. Manuela, do you want to share about the what your background is and why you're involved? I mean, I can say so.
Karen has a question, I think. Karen.
Sorry, Victoria, Diana's just popped up in the chat to say she'll have to go in 5 minutes, but if you wanted to share, it might be good she shares now.
Yeah, okay, Diana, would you like to share something? Absolutely.
Thank you. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for everyone who is, on a information seeking thing and new to this methodology, so I have been working with Victoria for a few months and completed Get in Your Body level 1, and I'm in the beginning of level 2. And I didn't have any physical illness that I wanted to heal. My intention for coming into this was to really, as part of my meditation and spiritual practice, to really deepen my understanding of how energy would flow unimpeded in my body. So that was my original intention. And I have to say that level 1 was absolutely incredible for me in 3 respects. The first one, I didn't realize how much emotional baggage I had actually locked inside my joints, that actually when we got up from the pelvis to the rib cage and the spine, it was a complete revelation to me. And to this day, when I'm in a queue, I do some of the like rib cage exercises that every single time bring me that sense of inner spaciousness and relief. So the emotional component was surprising and very impactful for me. The second thing is I'm very conscious of my gait, and now my whole family's gait and my children, and that I have a bunion on one of my feet, and I used to be in frequent pain. And the mechanics of how, first of all, how we are still, but then how we are in propulsion and suspension. So when you disintegrate your way of walking, I have changed the way I walk, and I'm no longer in that pain I had. And also, as a complete side effect, I used to have eczema on my feet and elbows. And that's, I don't know, Victoria, if this is you and your system, but that's completely healed. So that was interesting. And the beginning of what I'm starting to see in level 2 is I'm actually starting to get that increased flow of energy, even when Victoria has an amazing way of teaching where she separates all the bits of our joints, and then we put them together in level 2. And I'm actually sensing an increased flow of energy that almost brings me into, for those of you who have come from the Joe Dispenza community, when you do the breath, that sometimes way of moving my rib cage alongside all my joints from top to bottom almost brings the same effect. So that's been incredible. And also almost I feel as a spiritual practice, by getting really anchored into my body, I'm now safe, not safe, but I'm getting anchored in my body has allowed me to sort of reach the 5D more effortlessly in a way. So for anyone who is considering this, it's been beyond all my expectations. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Diana. Thank you. And Diana and I are planning on taking this to kids. So just to say, we want this taught to parents. We want it taught to kids. We're at the beginning of a really exciting process with this. So thank you, Diana. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to you.
Manuela, would you like to share? Can I just say, Manuela has taught yoga for 25 years and is a medical surgeon, aren't you, Manuela? So it's an amazing thing to have you as part of the community. Would you like to share your reason for being here?
Thank you. Well, the reason for being here is that I'm, since 5 years, I'm interested in, I basically 2 years ago, I left surgery because I'm more interested in self-healing and teaching self-healing. So for the last 5 years, I'm a Dr. Joe Dispenza student. And, but when Victoria talked to me about this, I saw in the potential that it has to bring people to, not everybody is ready for Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations and technique. So this is a perfect bridge for me to bring awareness to people's and basically unblock these energy traumas and emotional blockage that we basically somatize and have in our body. But of course, I started this process for this reason, but it's a discovery on myself as well. Of course, it's a journey on myself. I had a sciatic nerve problem for the last 20 years, and despite yoga, and I couldn't really understand where it was. I mean, I knew it was not hernias in the spine. It was due to muscle, basically inflammation and contraction in my pelvis, but I couldn't get rid of it in a definite way. And the first couple of lessons, basically working on the feet, I discovered that I had injuries in my ankles, and basically my ankles were blocked. And the moment I unblocked that movement, really, it was just getting better and better every day. And now I'm 5% of what I had when I started. And I didn't start it a long time ago. I started a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. So I'm just into level 2, and I've done level 1. So it's not that you don't get results. You have to work hard for years to get results. It's it's like really finding the keys and and turning it into the lock of the door and open the door is very easy. It's just finding the right key, and everybody, each one of us has the keys, but somehow we have to listen to our body, and then find that little movements that basically free our body from all that emotional, physical traumas or postures or attitudes, mental attitudes that we may have, because the body is basically is a reflection of that. So if we work on the body, it has a great reflection back on our emotional and mental status as well. This is my experience. Thank you, Victoria.
Thanks, Manuela. Thank you so much. So, yeah, has anyone got any questions about anything that we've been doing? Farah or Rima or Charlotte and Ruth, yeah. One of the things people ask quite often is, how long will it take to get results with this? And that's quite interesting because it's different for different people. But I think we can always say that within 7 weeks, most people have learned a process which is completely life-changing. Wendy, do you want to share about why you're involved with this?
Yeah, okay. I met Victoria in January, and we spoke very briefly about it. And I met her again in February, and we had quite a long discussion, or several long discussions, about the system. And I just, it kind of, it was a bit of a light bulb moment. I could see the potential with this system for me to be able to help lots of my clients release their traumas that they're holding. And I was kind of looking at it from that perspective. But a few weeks ago, I had the realization that actually I needed to do this for myself as well. Now I've been struggling with back pain and sciatica since February. Although various bits of me have gotten better and I no longer have hip pain, which I used to have quite regularly if I was on my feet for more than an hour. I don't have that at all anymore, but I'm very much a work in progress. And kind of working through the system, I've kind of realised I need to do a lot more work on myself with the system, but I know that it will help me, and I know that it will help. I will be able to help people with this in the future once I'm finished with my practitioner training. And in fact, I have been showing other people, little bits and pieces, and literally everybody that I've done things with have gone, wow, I never knew I could feel my feet, or wow, I feel much more stable standing like this with my feet planted and my pelvis tucked under. This is why I'm doing this. I just feel like this is such an incredible system. It's such an incredible way of actually putting your body into the right alignment to not only relieve physical issues, but to relieve emotional and mental issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Wendy. So
you're on mute, Victoria.
Thanks, Wendy. So the connection between physical and emotional is really very important. So people may or may not have heard about the polyvagal theory, but what we're working with here is the containers of the autonomic nervous system. So first of all, you need the correct foundation in your feet, yeah, so that it stabilizes. But then your parasympathetic nervous system is kind of held in your pelvis. So if your pelvis is not able to align correctly, that means that no matter how hard you regulate and try and regulate in terms of calming your heart, calming all kinds of things, it's like the ground beneath you is shaking all the time, okay? It's shaking all the time. So you're trying to calm the ground beneath you shaking. All right, that's what you're doing in your life. So what we're doing is we are coming in with the correct mechanics that get you feeling very, very safe in your body, and we get you learning how to align your pelvis, and then we get you to switch on your psoas. And the psoas is an extraordinary muscle because it goes from the base of your rib cage to the top of your thighs, and it kind of goes through so it's the longest muscle in the body, and if we think about our soul and our gut feeling, that's where the psoas is hanging out. So if that structure of the pelvis is not aligned and also able to mobilize, I know someone said they had a sacroiliac challenge, so that is an issue with your pelvis, the two sides of your pelvis being able to mobilize in correct relationship with each other, then the parasympathetic nervous system can't stabilize very easily. And then if the rib cage is stuck, your sympathetic nervous system, your kind of fight or flight, is also being kept in a very kind of stuck state where there's this kind of hypervigilance. Yes, Karen.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt. Rima's got to go in a moment, but she was asking, how does it help with migraines, cluster headache?
Of course. So Rima, it is extraordinary because you learn how to open. So these muscle groups, yeah, that contract and cut off circulation at the base of your skull, creating these pain patterns, all right? We teach you how to mobilize the structures that these muscles are attached to. Every muscle needs to learn how to fully contract, but also how to fully release. And muscles are like a spring. And if they never get the opportunity to fully contract, they can't spring into a release. Okay, so we teach you how to do this in 3 planes of movement. All right, so it's absolutely fantastic for that kind of health challenge. If it's something you get a lot, sometimes we also have to look at other things. We need to check your nutrition. We need to check, you know, what other contributing factors there are. Yeah, there is no one thing that works for everything all of the time. We need to look also at what's causing it. Yeah, but even the fact of being there with your head to one side, from my perspective, okay, is going to contract muscles and potentially cause a migraine. So already I'm watching you. I'm watching a twisted rib cage. I'm watching a head go off in one direction. I would be on your case immediately to see what your habits are. Okay. Farah, yes, please do ask.
Hi there. I wanted to know whether you've actually helped people with MS. It's not too late for me because every time I'm standing or walking, I'm very conscious that my balance is too much to my right side because I have the problem the MS causes is on my left side.
Okay.
So I'm very much trying to compensate by using my right side, and now my right hip is like really giving out. So I was just wondering, would it be helpful if I've already got a problem?
Yes, so I've been working with 2 people with MS quite recently, pretty advanced, far more advanced than what you're saying. And I think the saddest thing for them is, why didn't they know this 10 years ago? Yeah, why didn't they even know it 20 years ago? Because obviously with the spasticity that you get with MS, yeah, and then the atrophy that it's causing, if you've got center of mass distributing incorrectly through the body with that kind of pathology, yeah, then it's making it 10 times harder. So for example, with one of the ladies with MS I've been working with recently, it really has been about trying to at least get her upper body structures correctly aligned so that the compression isn't compounding the problem. Yeah, I'm not saying that this methodology is going to fix your MS. Yeah, there's many complex reasons for that pathology. Is it going to help you sort out your center of mass? Yeah, so that you are not compounding, because obviously we have the symptoms of MS, which is the MS, and then we've got the secondary issues that come in, which is you trying to live around MS. So already, as you've just said, you're shifting your weight to the right, you're creating an issue there. We would teach you how to rearrange your center of mass, but in a way that your body is designed to function. All right, rather than doing it in a way that's then already causing you pain. Yeah, so we would get you to a place where it's like, oh my goodness, so I can support myself there in a kind of effortless way, because I understand the way my structures are designed to work, rather than kind of putting all my weight somewhere and not understanding the mechanics of my body. So actually I'm creating more damage. So at no point do I claim that this methodology is going to fix anything. All right, it is 100% unethical to do that. Having said that, a byproduct of this methodology is without question, yeah, extraordinary for most people, because you will know, yeah, you would learn how to rearrange yourself correctly, how to organize your structures to get the best version of you can get at this point.
So should I just carry on following what you're doing, or do I get an appointment with you so you can see me?
Yeah, so it would be great for you to send a video of yourself walking, and then we have a chat to see. There is a VIP program which we suggest people get onto. If it's a serious pathology, then you seriously need to learn as much about your body as you can.
I do. I need it urgently.
Yeah.
So who do I send the video to?
So you will send it to me. Which group are you in? Which group did you come through to this session?
it was one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's group.
Did you go into that? There is a group. I'll tell you what I'm going to do is put a link in the chat here, okay, into our Ixchel community group. And then you'll be able to join that. Let me just go there and get the link for you. Overview. Sorry, bear with me. Invite via group link, copy link. Okay, I'm going to put this in the Zoom chat. Yeah, if you can just join that group, then we'll be able to bring you through. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So yes, MS, you know, is obviously there are many contributing factors and history, you know, relating to each person individually. So it is you know, we just work with what we have and get the best version of you. Okay. Are we good? Any other questions from anyone? No, that's great. I wish I could find. I can't. It's a shame that video won't play well. But what I'll also do is I will put some testimonials. There's a testimonial group, and also on the website we need to get more testimonials up. But I'll forward some testimonials to you. Yes, Karen. Hey.
I thought if you're needing one more, I can, rather than going into, there's lots of things that this methodology has helped me for, but one thing that springs to mind for this group, particularly with it being a Joe Dispenza group, is something that Victoria said to me when we first met. I'd injured my back and was in huge amounts of pain, and it was as if Victoria had waved a magic wand and took it all away very quickly. But it started a conversation and I became very interested in this whole thing. And Victoria said to me, she said, I get the feeling you're not fully committed to being in that body of yours. And it was a fascinating thing for me to realize, because I was drawn to Dr. Joe because I've been really interested in manifestation and how the universe works, and stuff that, you know, my friend calls wafty stuff. And it was as if I was sort of holding out and wanting to do things on a really quantum level without fully committing to being in this body. And what I hadn't realized in 30 years of sort of following this spiritual path and this sort of quantum path was how essential the body is to the whole thing. I was sort of thinking that was just carrying me around while I was doing all this wafty stuff that was far more important. And I've realized it really isn't the case at all. That the body being in alignment is, as Diana was saying, is critical to the whole thing. So yeah, that was just a real revolutionary thing to me, and it just might be of interest to other people who are sort of traveling a similar-ish path. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
And I think, just to add to that, what's extraordinary is that, you know, and I can finish here really, is that I learned many years ago that we, you know, our spiritual connection is what we're here to explore. Yeah, it's such an important thing, but we have to be able to safely have a foot in both worlds. And it's very easy to kind of want to escape to this wonderful sense of spiritualness and not understand that the spiritual gift we truly have in this world is our body. You know, we are here to experience being human. And the bones, you know, I take this to a whole other level, to the bones, coming home to the bones. Everything else is noise. The bones, when we come home, and you know, we do a process called check into your body, as well as the get into your body methodology. There is a support and a calmness and a connection and a sense of engagement and safety, which we don't get from anything else in my experience. And I say that based on on person after person exploring this methodology. And very often the very thing that we're looking for in meditation, the very thing that we're looking for in so many therapies is right here when we connect into the strong, beautiful alignment of our bones. So yeah. Yes.
And it's, can I just add, the very interesting thing is that I had been stuck with my, I was really committed. I meditated daily and couldn't have been more committed to my spiritual journey, but I had not managed to manifest. I'd manifested something, a beautiful family. And I'm not saying there's a lot of things I'm not really grateful for, but the big chunks of my life purpose, I had not been able to manifest. And it's very interesting that the more I connected to, once I'd made that commitment, and I had a few wobbles, didn't I, Victoria, on the phone and in a right state.
People have to wobble to come back, to learn how to come back from wobbling. You have to wobble. Yeah.
And there was definitely a lot of resistance, and I didn't understand the resistance, but once I got past that and committed to this methodology, it has been really interesting because I've had an avalanche of manifestations. So it's fascinating. Yeah. Thank you.
I think that's really interesting. I do say to people, give me 7 weeks and you won't know yourself at the end of it, because by the end of 7 weeks, if we get your gait right, if we get you, without one foot going off in one direction, the other going in the other, or one getting in the way of the other one, if we just get you correctly putting one foot in front of the other, as that beautifully happens in your own body, it becomes what in your environment as well. Your environment just aligns with you. It's so beautiful, it really is. Yeah. Anyway, we've gone over an hour. Are there any other questions from anyone before we go? That's beautiful, Ruth. I love what you say about your tuning fork. You mean the bones are like our own personal tuning? Yeah, absolutely. That's really lovely. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, or are we pretty much there? Thank you, everyone, for your time. Yeah, we're here. Any questions you have privately, just get in touch. I understand also sometimes people don't want to talk about things in a public environment, so do just get in touch. And yeah, anything else? Farah, if you want to, you could stay on for a moment now and I can have a quick chat with you if that would be helpful for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Are we good? Say goodbye and thank you. Thank you for being here. And a thank you and a goodbye from Blue, who's very much part of the process, always.
Bye. Thank you.
Right.
See you soon.
I'm going to need to hand back control, aren't I?
Yes. So let me take that back from you. No, you need to make me host. Are you good to make me host?
How do I do that?
Just go on me and on the 3 dots and make me.
Oh, yeah. Okay, make host.
Yeah.
Yes. Fabulous. I will see you tomorrow.
All right, Wendy, take care. Okay, bye. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so it sounds like you're pretty up against it with what you're dealing with.
Yes, my main issue is anxiety, long-term anxiety, being in survival mode too long. My whole, system, my nervous system.
1 minute, I just need to stop